once again with another one, right? So obviously we're going to recap UFC Mexico. Great event, okay? Awesome, awesome, awesome event. I can't say enough good things about it. However, there is something that I think a lot of casuals need to understand, okay? They need to understand that these cards, these cards are underrated. And at any time, they can deliver. Here's El-Kheer MMA. Shout out to you, my man. Hey, Kyrie. He says flyweight division is starting to change a lot. Correct. Now we got Loner Kavanagh in the mix, right? Before I get into that, right, I also want to preface that I'm also going to be talking about World War III tonight because I think it is an important topic. I think that it's great that we can talk about UFC, which I think is a niche in and of its own. But I also appreciate the fact that the MMA community is very much politically inclined, right? Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about all that, but don't get it twisted. We're going to talk about the fights as well. And yes, you are absolutely right. The flyweight division is absolutely starting to change a lot. And that is a breath of fresh air because quite frankly, Joshua Van being the world champion is what's best for business. Okay? Now, obviously, DJ is not around. DJ has been, one of the greatest champions of all time, not just in the flyweight division, but in all of the divisions. So we don't have him around anymore. So as a result of that, we need to create new stars. Here we are. We have some new stars. We got Kavanagh, we got Joshua Van, and then the list goes on and on and on. Now, I want to say something to preface this, right, as a little bit of a life lesson story. Going into this fight, Kavanagh was the underdog, and Brandon Moreno was the favorite. Now, why is that? Well, primarily the reason being is because of the fact that Kavanagh, well, he's an unproven entity. Whenever you are an unproven entity, people are going to doubt you. People are going to say, I don't know about this guy. I don't think he's going to really do anything or be anything. That is the first thing that a lot of people say. Over time, people start believing in you, just like this channel. Okay, like most MMA channels, they start out with literally nobody, around to listen to them, literally no audience. And even the first time that I was even allowed to live stream here, I was literally talking just to myself until eventually some people started coming around. Eventually, I started filming the workout sessions, the conditioning sessions that I do, the training sessions that I do. And then some people started to realize, you know what, maybe there's something to this guy. And then you start learning some things about me. You realize that I do have a combat sports background, and you start building a reputation. Then people start believing in you. That is the story of the UFC and most UFC fighters. Eventually, people start to believe in them, and then eventually some people don't start believing in them depending on, their situation, right? Well, for whatever reason, nobody believed in John Kavanagh coming in here. And the primary reason for that is because Brandon Moreno was the favorite, right? Not only was Brandon Moreno the favorite, he was the hometown boy, okay? And not only was he the hometown boy, he was it was in his home country, in front of his countrymen. And the whole entire crowd went there to see him, specifically, okay? If you think about it, who else were they going to see in that card? Who else in that card was a former world champion? Who else in that card is friends with Canelo Alvarez? Nobody else other than Brandon Moreno. And you know what? It was an upset. And class of John Kavanagh, he goes up on the mic and he says the following. He says, you know what? I know you guys are upset, but I love Mexico. I love the city. I love your culture here. And I thought he was a class act for displaying that, right? But the lesson that I need you guys to understand is this, right? Nobody is ever going to believe in you until you go out there and you show why people should believe in you, right? A lot of people are not going to believe in my channel. A lot of people are not going to believe in what I am able to do with MMA YouTube and things of that nature. A lot of people are not going to be able to believe that I can mix politics with MMA, but I happen to find a certain niche for it. And there are people out there that are already doing that, but in their own way, just like I'm doing it in my own way. Jesse on Fire does something like that. MMA Guru does something like that. He sort of talks about politics here and there, but is very limited. And I think due to the fact that he is a British man, he lives in the UK, and as a result of that, I think it's a little bit harder for him to, sort of speak his mind, at least in those very volatile topics. But not for me. I live in the good old United States. I can say whatever I want. We have freedom of speech for whatever that means, right? But in reality, freedom of speech doesn't really exist because and I know the minute you say something wrong or the minute that you say something that is off the wall, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get fired from your job, and you're going to have all of your, all of your means of income, your means of living taken away. So is that really freedom of speech? Or are we just living under a new age way of slavery? But I tell you what, World War III, we're going to get to that as well as we're going to get to the cards in a second.
Again, major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime had...
Also, guys, I hate being on fucking YouTube, so smash the fucking like button. This platform. Lose money being on this piece of shit that are clearly new here that don't know anything about on YouTube.
Has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and...
They chant death to America was because we put them under crippling sanctions and we assist the Israelis with bombing them and assassinating their scientists and generals. That's why. Because of our poor foreign policy that's run by Zionists.
Mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole.
X-Stack says, what up, young good king? How are you, my man? Shout out to you, X-Stacks. Let me know what part of the world you are from, my brother.
Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October...
Hey, man, shout out to you, West Coast, huh? Just like me, man, West Coast as well. Sacramento, California represent. Let me know what part of the West Coast you are from. Are you in California by any chance?
October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage.
All right, we're going to get to the World War III stuff later on, but for now, let's get to the card as we had just witnessed right now. So let's get from the very beginning of the main event all the way down to the prelims. Okay, so tonight, obviously, there was no takedown between Loner Kavanagh or Brendan Moreno, but when it came to the striking, I would say that Loner Kavanagh was just a little bit more, I wouldn't say accurate, but just a little bit more active than that of Brendan Moreno. Okay, and I think ultimately that's what won him this fight tonight, right? Now, Loner Kavanagh going into this fight was the underdog. And then as the fight went on, by the way, he started becoming the favorite, the live favorite. Now, look, you guys know I don't bet. I'm not a betting man. I'm not a gambler. It's not what I do. But what I do know is that Loner Kavanagh was the underdog, okay? He was the underdog until he wasn't. He was the underdog until the fight was going on, and then as the fight commenced, all of a sudden, he was no longer the underdog. So, speaking of Kavanagh, I spelled his name wrong here. Let me respell his name right here to kind of give him Kavanagh. Okay, Kavanagh. Okay, Kavanagh. There we go. Okay. There it is. Kavanagh 5-round decision there. All right. So, okay, we got it now. All right, so 8 takedown attempts by Brendan Moreno, right? A lot of clinching that had gone on in this fight, right? But Loner Kavanagh was just a step above Brendan Moreno. And then the significant strikes was on the side of Loner Kavanagh. And ultimately, that's what won him this fight, was just that alone. Now, let's go into the co-main event, right? The co-main event, you had Marlon Vera against David Martinez. Once again, very similar story here. David Martinez just a step above over Marlon Chito Vera. The striking percentage was on the side of David Martinez, just a lot more accurate in his striking, right? And obviously the takedowns probably won him this fight, was just a better overall mixed martial artist. Now, the unfortunate thing for Marlon Vera was that at the end of the fight, he tried to mount an offense, right? Tried to finish David Martinez. You know how it is, right? The whole entire fight, they're sort of just, wishy-washy, being very methodical, kind of like the metaphorical sense of playing with your food, right? Not really just going in there and grubbing all the way, but rather just kind of playing with your food, or just taking little sips here and there of your coffee, right? Not really just, chugging the whole thing. Whereas in the end, metaphorically speaking, that's exactly what he did. He tried to chug the whole thing. Just like that. And before you know it, it was a little too late, and David Martinez just showed why he was the better fighter tonight, and ultimately that's what got him the decision, right? There was a lot of finishes in this fight, though. Obviously, the co-main event and main event ended in a decision. But with Daniel Zellhuber, here we are. Daniel Zellhuber gets knocked out. He says, X-Stack says, Vera never starts in time. Waste the first round. Stupidity is part of the sport. Stupidity is a part of the sport. Interesting take there. What exactly do you mean by stupidity is part of the sport? Do you mean that this is just something that comes with certain habits that certain fighters have, or certain type of styles that they are used to, or just not really willing to adapt, or what is it? Oops, sorry about that. He says he had a poor strategy and never changes. It caused so many losses that he doesn't correct. Correct. Okay, so we're going to get to that in a second. Hold on just a second, okay? Hold on.
Explain this in a second, but first, it's Ridge's biggest sale of the year. So,
okay, hold on just a second. I just want to make sure that I have the All right, here we go. We got okay, we got the volume going right now. All right, here we go. Okay, good. We got the volume going right now. Okay, so here it is, right? X-Stack says he has a poor strategy, never changes it. It caused so many losses and he doesn't correct it. So here's what I got to say about Brandon Vera, right? The way that he trains, he runs from what I understand, according to Michael Bisping, about 20 miles, or I'm sorry, 40 miles a week. Okay, this is not helpful in any kind of way. All right, this is not helpful in any kind of way. I'm going to tell you why. Number one, you got 3 rounds as a mixed martial arts fighter. You got 3 rounds to get it done. Okay? It's not a marathon. It's not, you know, a long drawn out competition like an Ironman competition. Mixed martial arts is an explosion, but it's also part stamina, but stamina within 15 minutes. You understand? So as a result of that, he never got off, because I want you to think about this, right? When you're running a marathon, you are running at a slow pace, okay? You're running at a slow pace. You're not, you know, exercising, you know, a certain level of urgency, which is why explosiveness is really important to train in mixed martial arts. Now, I remember back in the days, Nick Diaz was told by Nick Diaz told George St. Pierre, you get injured a lot because of the explosive training that you do, okay? And that's a problem. That is a serious problem if you are constantly getting injured, but at the same time, some type of training outweighs the benefits or vice versa. You understand what I'm saying? But you look at the Nick Diaz and the Diaz brothers, how is it that they train? Well, they do a lot of marathons. They do a lot of Ironman training. And as a result of doing these Ironman training, they're not explosive. They don't have a sense of urgency. They don't fight in a way where they are confined to 15 minutes or in a championship round, 25 minutes. This is do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you understand why Marlon Chito Vera looks like the way that he does, right? I don't think marathon running is conducive to mixed martial arts training, okay? And I know a lot of people may not like that notion, but that's the reality. It's not conducive to mixed martial arts training. And if anybody disagrees, I dare you to challenge that notion in terms of the sports science, okay? But that's just what I think. I think that it's indicative of the way that he fights. I think that it's indicative of the way that he goes about his style, and that's just, you know, the reality of the situation. So we're going to get to all the fights in a second. I just want you to hear what Trump had to say here.
It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been
Lots of fake news here.
the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this...
All right, so we'll get to the next fight right now. Bobby Green and Daniel Zellhuber. Okay, this is an important fight right here tonight. Right now, look, Bobby Green looked great. He looked great in this fight. Okay, it was a classic Bobby Green fight because he was fighting with his hands down, and on top of that, he was fighting to basically lure Daniel Zellhuber in. The way that he was sort of juking and jiving around the cage, he was making Daniel Zellhuber not only really nervous, but he was also making him very insecure in the way that he was approaching this fight. Okay, and then out of nowhere, Bobby Green catches Daniel Zellhuber, knocks him out, but I think there was a late stoppage going on here. Does anybody notice that in this fight? Did anybody notice a late stoppage into this fight? I noticed... Yeah, Daniel Zellhuber, the finish was, it was a little too late. He says, Mr. Pink says, what is your opinion on Iran, bro? You want to know my honest opinion on Iran? I think this war isn't needed. I don't think that it's needed at all. I think that we are doing this for a different state. We are doing this for a different country. We're not doing this for the interests of the United States. And then Donald Trump said something along the lines of, well, okay, I'm going to just let you hear him say this right here.
Terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon.
Why not? Why can't they have a nuclear weapon? Are they not a sovereign state?
I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordo, Natanz.
Yes, I remember you, Montella. You are from the north side of the Philippines, from what I understand, right? So, okay, Mr. Pink says, do you think the Iranian people will do better without the Ayatollah? Well, we will see. We will see what they have going on next, right? I'm curious to see what is going to be next, considering the fact that we don't know what kind of regime is going to come up out of it, right? Now, what I know is that the majority of Iranians that leave Iran are secular, non-Muslim, sometimes even Sunni Muslims, considering the fact that Iran is a Shia-dominated country. But as a result of that, I think what you are going to see is a puppet regime in Iran, and I don't know if that's something that the Iranian people want. I want you to think of it like this, right? The Iranians that you meet in the United States will skew your idea of what Iran really is. Because the majority of them, the reason why they left Iran in the first place is because they don't want to be around a bunch of Shias. They don't want to be around a bunch of Muslims. They want to be secular. They want to live in the freedom of the United States. So therefore, that is why they live here in the first place. So what it seems like is we're replacing the people that want to be in Iran for people that want to be in the United States. Let me say that again. I feel like they are replacing the people of Iran with the people of the United States, i.e. Persian Americans, right? And we don't know if that's necessarily what they want in the long run, and we will see in the long run. So Mr. Pink says, I'm a little worried about it because after what happened in Libya when Gaddafi was unalived, it fell into chaos. I hope they get a good, responsible government. I got bad news for you. I'm not confident that any of this is going to have any particular, positive, feedbacks or a positive return of investments. Not whatsoever. Right? The region is very volatile. On top of that, American servicemen had already died in this conflict, right? I think you guys have known that. I think there's some news that sort of, talks about that, right? There's already American servicemen that have already died, and that can't be good. You know what I'm saying? That can't be good. So the reality of that situation, I think, is going to, I think you will see in the long run that it's not going to help out anybody whatsoever, right? So, all right, back to the fights that we were talking about. Great job on Bobby Green, by the way, right? Bobby Green, 39 years old, doing it for the old dogs, killing it. And he says, thoughts on people who wear the tiny hats. I mean, you already know exactly what I have to say about that. Mr. Pink says, sorry, have a good day, brother. No, not at all, man. Shout out to you from Scotland, Mr. Pink. Not at all. I want you to know that what your question is not off the wall and off the topic of this live stream, because not only am I covering the fights tonight that had just happened, I'm also covering World War III and what had happened in Iran, hence what you see on the description and the headline title. So it's no worry on your part. I appreciate your question. I appreciate your feedback. And please stay around because I will still talk about this. I just got to get to the fights first. So great on Bobby Green. Afterwards, he goes and calls out Nate Diaz, right? He says, hey, listen, UFC, I want you to bring Nate Diaz back to the UFC. Now, I don't know if that meant that he wanted to fight him or he just wanted Nate Diaz to have a career in the UFC again. But nonetheless, I thought it was an interesting call out, or at least a post-fight speech by King Green. And so the next fight after that, it is Edgar Shiraz taking on Felipe Buenas. So this went to a 3-round decision, right? There was a lot of finishes tonight, but this was one of the fights that went to a decision. One takedown by Felipe Buenas, not enough to win the fights, right? He did try to shoot a couple of times, but, you know, obviously you see the takedown percentages there, 1 to 3. Now, his striking was higher, right? His output was higher, but yet Edgar Shiraz wins the fight. Now, I don't know what had, what got him to win this fight, but nonetheless, yeah, Edgar Shiraz is the winner of this fight. Next fight, Emmanuel Rodriguez. Wow, this fight right here was a back and forth action right here. Insane back and forth action that this fight had gone with, right? Emmanuel Rodriguez obviously trains with Daniel Cormier. Now, what better training partner in the world to have than people at AKA Gym? You got Daniel Cormier, you got Khabib, you got Islam Makhachev, you got Team Eagle, and the rest is history, right? Kevin Borjas knocks him down out of nowhere, right? He knocks him down out of nowhere. After he knocks him down, guess what happens? Emmanuel knocks him down, only for Emmanuel to finish him off in the second round, and that was all she wrote right there. John Dong says, "What's up, man? Shout out to you, John Dong. How are you, my man? Let me know what you thought about the fights tonight. Did you enjoy the fights? Were the fights fun for you? And also, what do you think about Iran and what's going on right now? Because these are the topics that we are talking about." So, okay, before we get to the rest of the fights and the rest of the card, what else? Obviously, Santiago Luna and Angel Pacheco, 3-round decision by Santiago Luna. By the way, his name is Border Boy, right? This was the first time in his whole entire career that he had gone to a decision. Obviously, 21 years old, 8-0. He kind of needs this, right? Sort of like in boxing. If you see a prospect that's knocking everybody out, that's always getting the finishes or this and that, at some point, you need to have those moments where you are, you go to the distance. When you go to distance, you gain more experience, and as a result, that's exactly what he did. And great on him. He was doing his own translation, right? The name is Border Boy. That kind of makes sense, right? He knows how to speak English and Spanish, and very proficient at it. He was doing his own translation post-fight, which is awesome. 60% of his striking, right? 155 shots, that he connected out of 257. That's 60%. The significant strikes he threw, about 131 of them were significant strikes. 5 out of 5 in his takedowns. Great takedown. Angel Pacheco got a takedown as well, right? Had one submission attempt, but ultimately Santiago Luna won that fight as a result. Okay, back to the Iran situation. That is the main card. Afterwards, we're going to talk about the prelims, right? But let's get to Trump and his thoughts on the Iran situation going on right now. William says, "Hey, my brother, much love and respect as always, my man. Hope you have a great weekend, bro. Major salute." Man, shout out to William, man. One of my originals right here in the chat, man. Good to see some of the OGs in the chat popping in right here, man. Shout out to all you guys.
And Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons. And we sought attack. We warned them never to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it.
Now, I wonder what Trump meant by that when he says they tried, they wanted to do it, they didn't want to do it. You know what it is, right? This is the way that I look at it, right? When they did that negotiation, I remember they had Jared Kushner go to Oman to speak with Iranian diplomats, right? Out of all people, they had his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, in there, but whatever, right? Okay, the negotiation reminds me of a fighter that does not want to fight a fighter that they know can beat them. In other words, they price themselves out. John Jones said that he wanted to fight Tom Aspinall for $30 million. Next thing you know, he wants $100 million, right? I'm not saying that's a true story, although some of that is sort of true, but now I'm just exaggerating for the sake of a metaphor to this story, right? That is what they were trying to do. The U.S. is saying, all right, you know what? You guys don't want to do this, or Iran says that they're willing to do that, but then they moved the goalposts because ultimately what they wanted was to go and fight. Okay, they wanted to go and fight Iran for whatever reason, because maybe it is to protect Israel in that region, maybe it is to protect the interests of American bases around there, but I highly doubt it. It's very difficult to attack a military base in the Middle East, unless, of course, you provoke them enough, and guess what happened, right? Lo and behold, a naval fleet in Bahrain got hit. Not only that, Dubai got hit because guess what? They are an ally of the United States. And lo and behold, you know that this is going to affect combat sports in the Middle East as a whole. Now imagine Usyk and Verhoeven are going to box in Egypt. Okay, Egypt is also a Western ally, also a big ally of the Saudi Arabia. So guess what's going to happen? Maybe they may go and attack it, and I'm willing to bet that now the security for the White House card is going to be even bigger. Victory says Armin Sarukian. Did you retract your statement because maybe you didn't want to spoil what happened? By the way, I did miss RAF, obviously, because I was busy watching, the UFC, and then, was doing a little bit more research on the Iran situation going on so that I can talk about it. But yeah, let me know. Just give me some spoilers, or maybe I'll just look up what had happened. So Armin Sarukian won, right? Man, Armin Sarukian is looking really good. William says, will we ever have peace, bro? I'm sick of war. Yeah, man, especially you being a Marine, William, right? You being a Marine from the same era as me, I'm sure you are, sick of that as well. When will it be enough? Just want peace finally. You know what? The thing is, we have what you call the military-industrial complex going on in America, right? So as a result of that military-industrial complex, we will always be embedded into war, right? There's no doubt about it. We will always be in war, and as a result of that, one war is going to end and another one pops up, right? And it just seems like we never learn our lesson. Now, I hope if they want to continue this war with Iran, I think they should do it at a capacity where it is, let's say, small tactics, small units, proxy wars, and fighting from above, which I think is what they are going to do. But at the same time, don't be surprised if they start deploying Marines there, right? For a shock and awe type of situation, which, by the way, is going to do exactly what? It's going to attract insurgency. It's going to attract, more attacks on our troops. It's going to radicalize a lot of people in the Shia world, because remember, what happened when we radicalized the Sunni world when we attacked Iraq? Out came ISIS. ISIS became a very powerful fighting force in the Middle East, right? Now the Taliban became a powerful fighting force in the Middle East. So now you have Iran already as a Shia powerhouse. Now you're going to embolden Hezbollah and other Shia groups. So that can't be good. He says, keep up the good work, brother. I'm going to listen in now. Always got your six, brother. Amen. Thank you, fellow Marine. Thank you for that. He says, you are spot on about everything, bro. It will never end, unfortunately. And then Victory says, you'll just have to watch. Man, you're making me excited about how Armin Sarukian did here. He says, I'm so sick of losing brothers and sisters overseas. Right. And here's the thing, right? Here's something that I wanted to preface. Trump talks about how, you're going to hear it here. He talks about how there are, other people that have died today, right? He says this is just, the basis of what happens when, you need to sacrifice for the sake of the greater good. And I'm like thinking, bro, you're not even sending any of your kids to go enlist, right? So what are you even talking about? So just hear this.
But they didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed
Translation in Israel.
overseas. and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the
Full-on war. Here we go.
region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built it.
All right, here's the thing, right? Why can't they have a nuclear weapon? They've had a nuclear weapon for a long time. They haven't done anything with it. We all have what you would call mutual destruction. You know that phrase that I'm talking about. What did he say here? He said, Trump and his sons would never last a day in the battlefield, bro. Perp says, think about that. He says, I love painting of the waves in the background, bro. Very sharp. Thank you, my man. You know, I'm a California boy at heart, right? You know, so I love the beach, and you know, I love that kind of scenery, nonetheless. So, you know, I mean, hey, listen, if you're a Marine, obviously you're going to love water, period, right? You know, we're an amphibious, you know, type of people. You know what I mean? We love water. That's just what we, you know, love. And yeah, man, facts on that, bro. Here's the thing, right? You know, when they say and they talk about Prince Harry, right? Think about this, right? With all the controversy that's surrounding Prince Harry actually fought, actually served the British military. His brother Prince William and King Charles, when he was Prince Charles, also served in the British Navy. You can't say that about Trump's kids, okay? Because by the end of the day, Trump's kids never served. Trump himself never served. He dodged the bullet. He dodged trying to serve. But anyways, let's get to the rest of the card right here. So the other part of the card, you had Jose Medina and Ryan Gandra. Now, this was a squash match. When I looked at the record of these guys, I knew straight away that Ryan Gandra was going to get a quick finish on this one, and lo and behold, he did, right? This guy didn't even throw a single punch. Not a single punch. 40 minutes into it, he knocks him out, and that was it. Perp says Al-Khamenei Kai lied more than 7,000 people, 7,000 innocent people just since December, and he's been in charge for 30 days. Is that right? Okay. You're talking about Ali Khamenei. He says, yeah, I was sorry, Lo. I was sorry, LOL. Oakland, California for life, brother. Yeah, that's right, man. West Coast on that one, man. West Coast on that one. So after this fight, or before this fight, you had Ellen Perez taking on Macy Chiasson. Typical women's fight, right? Great grappling on the part of Ellen Perez. That's probably what won her the fight. Not only that, very accurate striking. Wins the decision, moves to 13-2, and Macy Chiasson is moving into a 50-50 record as we speak. Now, Chris Montino, okay, coming from the New England cartel, right? I'm like thinking as they were announcing his name and his team, they said, oh, you know, New England cartel. I was like thinking to myself, bro, listen, I don't think the word cartel is anything that you should really mention while you're in Mexico, right? But nonetheless, Chris Catanez has the percentage on his side, 7 out of 10 takedowns, right? 2 submission attempts on top of it, right? So, you know, that was all she wrote. Decision. Obviously, There were a lot of finishes that was going on in this card, but also a lot of decisions as well. Take a look at the stats on this one real quick. All right, so as we move on to the next fight, we got Douglas Silva Andrade taking on Javier Reyes. Okay, so Javier Reyes wins this fight, first round knockout. That was all she wrote right there, right? Literally in the last second, okay, he was ground and pounding Douglas Silva de Andrade. Now look, you know what I love about Javier's story? I'll tell you what I love about Javier's story, right? Colombian fighter opened a gym for people that can't afford to train. And I think this is awesome. And quite honestly, this kind of inspires me a little bit. I'm going to tell you why, right? I know a lot of talented people in the world of MMA, especially in American MMA, right? Not so much with foreign MMA, with Brazilian MMA, with Russian MMA, because if these guys want to compete in MMA, there seems to be a particular venue or a particular way that they can, you know, find gyms or find facilities to go train. So he does that same thing for people in his region of Colombia. And I thought to myself, man, that is awesome. That is inspiring. You want a guy to win like that. Look at this, right? He beats this guy literally with just 1 second, right? As he was ground and pounding him, Herb Dean steps in out of nowhere and just stops the fight, right? Because he wasn't fighting back. Or was it Mark Goddard? I forgot which referee it was, right? You never know who the referee is, or sometimes the referees get very forgetful in your mind. Depending on just how significant they are towards the match. Maybe if, let's say, they, you know, had a late finish or something like that, or allowed, I mean, the Zell Huber fight. The Zell Huber fight with Bobby Green, you knew that it was Herb Dean, because guess what? Guess what Herb Dean likes to do? He loves to let the fight go on. He loves to let the fight go on to a very dangerous degree. And unfortunately, I think Herb Dean has refereed so many fights that I think he's just absolutely desensitized to violence in a way where he just doesn't stop. He says, hey, real quick, bro, did you see what happened to Shia LaBeouf down in French Corner down in New Orleans? I heard that he got into a fight, but here's the thing about Shia LaBeouf, right? What a lot of people don't know about Shia LaBeouf is that this guy is a true, he's a certified gang member who just happens to be famous. Okay, let's keep that in mind. He's a certified gang member who just happens to be famous, and I think a lot of people forget that about him. The guy is down with a Mexican gang in LA, and people think that he's just this square white boy, you know, and you know, he was playing a role at the Collector and was just doing method acting, but in reality, man, you know, he's really down with that business, and he's really with the business, and I think that's going to shock a lot of people to find that that's a reality. He says, yeah, I love Shia LaBeouf as an actor, though. I tell you what, man, you love Shia LaBeouf as an actor, I respect him as a street dude. You know what I mean? How about that? All right, we'll get to the fights in a second. Let's get back to what Trump is talking about here right now.
And rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for...
You see this part? This is where I don't like this part, right? I don't like this part. He says he went out on his shields. Shia was fighting a group of people. Oh, okay. And then he went out of his shields. Wow, okay. Well, there you go, man. See, there's a reason why the Sureños, you know, the Sword 13 guys in Echo Park accepted him into the gang for that reason. William says, oh, right, bro. Shia LaBeouf doesn't play any reindeer games. That's right, man. That's right. So, for those... And you know what? Here's the thing, right? This is what a lot of people say about Tupac as well, right? Because a lot of people, I think, are either jealous of Tupac or just either don't understand, you know, his story, or just somehow wants to put him in a box. they say things like, well, Tupac is not a real Mob Piru member. He's not a real Mob Piru blood member. But guess what? Real Mob Piru bloods from that neighborhood vouch for him. They say that he's down with that gang. They say that he's been jumped into that gang. And they can vouch for his gangster. So what more do you need to prove that the man is a real blood? Just like Shia LaBeouf. You ask anybody from Harpies 13, by the way, that's the gang that he comes from in Echo Park, right? You ask anybody, hey, is Shia LaBeouf a down-ass vato? They will say, yes, he's a down-ass vato. Okay, what more do we need? Anybody else that has an opinion outside of that gang really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's like this, William, right? It's like, okay, there's a lot of people out there that, pretend to be Marines or do stolen valor, right? You can think what you want to think, but, if the person's DD-214s, say that he was a Marine, he's had dog tags, there's pictures of that person, in dress blues, you can't really say anything about that. And more importantly, the people that really matter are the NCOs, commanding officers, and the people that are above that man, that watch over that man, or are in charge of that man. That's all that really matters. So it's the same thing in the gang world. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if, you don't think that Tupac is a real blood Mob Piru member. There's real blood Mob Piru members that vouch for his name. If you look at the song To Live and Die in LA, he mentions real affiliated blood members there. Until this day, they even get interviews from Vlad TV, and they ask him, hey, Buntry, what do you think about, having your name mentioned in, in the streets of LA? Oh, man, you know what? I didn't really like that. I was kind of scared, because I thought that, man, the Fed's going to be all over me now. But you know what, man? Tupac is a down-ass, N-word, right? So if that's what they say, then, then you got nothing to say about it. You can say that Shia LaBeouf is Malibu's most wanted. He's a white boy trying to fit in with a Mexican gang. Yeah, but guess what? Those Mexican gangs, support him. They back him. And guess what? If those guys were in New Orleans, you better believe they would be right there scrapping it out with him, in the name of the West Side, in the name of the West Coast, but more importantly, the name of their barrio. So that's what it comes down to. William says, your knowledge is outstanding on all these topics. You go over, bro. Thank you so much, man. Straight facts, brother. Yes, shout outs to you on that, man. Now, back to the fights. So, okay, we left off with Javier Reyes. 1 second, right? That was it, right? If you cannot continue, it's not about the clock, right? It is literally about whether you can continue or not, or if you look like you're fighting back. The referee didn't see Douglas fight back in that particular moment, so they just decided to call that fight, and that's what it was. All right, so we go on to the, I believe this was the third fight of the evening, Regina Tarrin. Okay, she was supposed to be fighting a Muay Thai fight this weekend. I believe she was going to fight on a Friday, and then 3 days ago they said, hey, instead of doing this Muay Thai fight, do you want to do the UFC fight? She says sure. 3 days notice, she comes in here, gets a decision win, right? A little bit sloppy, I will admit, right? The way that she's kind of throwing her punches, a little bit sloppy to my liking, right? Not necessarily the most technical that I would like to see, not the most technical proficient, but it was good enough, and she did great, man. And I'll tell you what, this Regina, by the way, Michael Bisping, right? He sounded like the biggest gringo poppy ever, right? I saw Fitzgerald and Laura Sanko correct his Spanish pronunciation. It's not Regina, it's Regina. And then here's Michael Bisping going, Regina, yeah, Regina. It's pronounced Regina, right? Just really embarrassing himself. Like, bro, listen, Brendan Schaub is probably watching this with his Mexican family, thinking to himself, man, you know what? This dude is embarrassing all the gringos out here. You know what I mean? Like, dude, his pronunciation, everything. But nonetheless, man, great performance on Regina Tarrin. 50% in her total strikes, right? 1 takedown. They had some good scrambles for a little bit, but, didn't really stay much on the ground. And, yeah, man, I think Regina is going to be a star moving forward, right? Looks like the type of fighter that would probably be on a lowrider magazine. If you look at Regina, she has that look, and Obviously, she has a country behind her. 21 years old, now the second youngest fighter in the whole entire roster of the UFC. Nothing but, you know, bright lights and a bright future ahead of her moving forward. So Frank Marshall, Eric Silva gets a submission within 2 minutes and 30 seconds of the fight, takes him down, trips him to the ground, gets a rear naked choke, gets it, and then shouts out, you know, America Top Team, right? Which he says is the best team in the world, and, you know, who can argue with that? Moving forward for Francis Marshall after that win, and then we move on to the first fight of the evening, Damian Pinas. This guy right here, Damian Pinas, he's going to be the next star coming out of Brazil. You got to think about the type of team that this guy came from, right? He came from a team of Jose Aldo, Barão, right? Very top team, a very top team in Brazil. And on top of that, very strong knockout power. I mean, look, just the shots that he was throwing at Wes Schultz, it didn't look like he was even trying to take him out. But he took him out, got the win, got the knockout win, first fight of the night, and that was all she wrote. And, yeah, man, that was basically the whole entire fight card that we just gone through right now. So as a result of that, now that we went through that whole card, let's get to this Trump and Iran situation going on right now. Because I'll tell you what, guys, okay? If you want to check out the recap for UFC Mexico, rewind back. I just recapped the whole entire fight for you guys. But for now, we're going to get to the Iran situation and what Trump had to say about it. Let's rock and roll.
Now, we're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran.
Bro.
We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. They have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity.
Bruh. We really are going to war, bro. Holy shit, man.
Or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight.
Yeah, start a new war.
Yeah, he's saying no president was willing to do what you did tonight, probably with a good reason. I need you guys to understand, Iran has mountainous regions. Iran has insurgency groups that they've embedded into their society, right, as some sort of like reserve force, which, by the way, that means that we're going to see deaths within our American troop forces, right? Now, here's the thing, right? Are you willing? It's not a question of whether the United States can win. That is not a question, right? We do have a very sophisticated military that can win at any time. Winning is not the problem. The problem is, are you willing to bleed? Okay, because right now our society is getting even softer and softer. Okay, and then we're getting undesensitized to violence because, let's be honest, a lot of people really don't understand violence until it comes to their doorstep. Now, I want you to imagine you are the parents of an armed forces member, and then you get that knock at your door with a bunch of servicemen giving you a flag because all the service guys in here know exactly what that means. That's basically indicating to your parents that you had died in a war, in a clash, in a fight. And Are you willing to take that? Are you willing to take that? And I don't think a lot of Americans are willing to take that. What they are willing to do is fight a war that they know they could win, but they are willing to fight a war that they don't have to face consequences towards. And you just can't have your cake and eat it too.
Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you
You mean give what the Jews want?
respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America.
Bruh.
May God bless you all. Thank you.
Fucking horrible, dude. Fucking.
Yeah, so Myron doesn't seem to be too happy about it, and I don't blame him. Let's hear why he's not happy about it.
Horrible. All right. Literally, yeah. It's happening, guys. We are at war, my friends. The ASA launched a major attack. Boom, boom, boom. It shows an 8-minute video on social media. Yep, we covered that already. The crisis latest session with Iran began after Trump vowed early January amid. Okay. United States bomb Iran's nuclear facilities. Yeah, bro, this is no. Chaos into Iran.
Yeah, you know what I'm surprised that he didn't mention about like the Strait of Hormuz, like, you know, any global disruptions of supply of, you know, whether it's oil.
Yeah, and by the way, that's another thing you guys have to understand about this, right? This war is going to come with a cost. It's going to come with a cost of your economy. Now, look, a lot of people will have this nonchalant attitude as to say, you know what, I don't really care. I don't really care about war. I don't really care about, you know, geopolitics or anything like that. Okay, well, you don't care, but then you go to the gas pump and you start realizing that the gas prices are high and you wonder why, right? Everything matters, especially in a globalized world where everything is globally connected.
Yeah, he's not going to talk about any of that.
He didn't address any of that stuff. I guess maybe those will come after.
He's not going to mention that because he knows, well, number one, most Americans are retards, don't even know what the Strait of Hormuz is. Number two, they're not going to understand the, you know, significant economic ramifications of closing down the strait. Even
There you go. See, Myron is even mentioning it right now, right? They don't understand, just like what I just prefaced earlier. These are things that they don't understand because the majority of you are, you know, brain-dead NPCs.
for a few hours, we saw the barrel prices go up significantly. And he also is not going to mention how the Chinese have supplied the Iranians with quite a bit of new technology that counters American stealth. So, you know, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. I know that right now they're preparing for retaliatory strikes.
Just got breaking news. Iranian news agencies, including IRNA, are facing a cyber attack. So I think you're right, Josie. Sorry, continue, Aaron.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, you know, Trump is going to make sure that he doesn't talk about any of the risks of what's going to happen here.
Yeah, so why is that, right? Why is Trump not willing to talk about the risks that is involving this war, right? They want you, the American taxpayer, to pay for this war. They want you to support this war, but they don't want to tell you the consequences of it. Look, I'll tell you what. If I wanted to get at a group of guys, right, and I had to call upon my homies to do it, I'm going to tell them the consequences. I'm going to tell them, guys, I really want to get at this guy. Okay, because he violated me, he did something to me that I didn't like, and as a result of that, we're going to go to war with this guy. I'm going to tell my homies, here's the possibilities. If we go to the ultimate, we could face life in prison, we could face, you know, kidnapping charges, we could face prison time for X, Y, and Z. This is the possibility of what can happen if we decide to move forward with this. All right. Now, are you still willing to down to do it? Are you having reservations about it? Or do you not think that it's a good idea that maybe there's other ideas we can explore? This is the reality that I would explore with the homies. Okay? Because that is the right thing to do. Now, Trump is not doing any of that with you guys. He's just telling you, hey, this is what we got going on. This is what I want to do. This is what I think is good for America, and this is the way that we're going to defend America, and there's nothing really else, you know, to it other than that. And I don't know if that's the best idea, but That's just how he's operating right now. He's giving you limited information. He doesn't want to give you the pros and cons that come with all of these consequences of having a war, right? He even just, I mean, look, he just basically told you guys that, hey, you know what? We lost a few American servicemen, and it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay that we lost a few servicemen because it is the price of war, and the overall good of the United States, i.e. Israel, is what matters, according to him. And I don't know, man. I don't know if I can really get down. I can't get down with that.
That could hurt the American public, like the economic ones with the oil prices, food prices going up as a byproduct of oil prices going up. You know, the fact that, you know, the Iranians possess capabilities that can actually, you know...
Beefcake MMA says, Khomeini is dead. Thank you, Jesus. You know what? You say that like as if, okay, it's one thing if you're happy about him being dead, right? I get that, right? But do you understand the consequences that come with that? People died in Dubai. American servicemen died today, and then more people are going to die as a result of it. And then on top of that, a children's school in Iran got bombed, okay, by the United States, and you're okay with that. Look, it's okay to be all right with Khomeini being dead. Khomeini is a world leader. Khomeini has led a lot of, yes, he's a vicious dictator, true. So he's not a civilian, right? That's the name of the game. It's fair game. You are a soldier at war, or you are, a piece in the chessboard. That's perfectly fine. But are you okay with the other things that come, with the latter? American troops dying, people in Dubai, innocent people dying, and then on top of that, girls in a girls' school dying as a result of that. I don't know if I'm going to be okay with that, honestly.
Really hurt aircraft carriers and destroyers. So, he's going to make sure that none of that stuff the American public doesn't know about. Because most Americans are not really too familiar with, foreign geopolitical affairs. They just see the prices go up and they don't know why. They're like, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, he's not going to mention any of that.
I mean, he had to give an 8-minute diatribe as to why he's doing this, because he knows it's bullshit. Like,
you said no, it was Iran. It was by Iran by a misfire. Do you have proof of that, Beefcake MMA? If so, let me know.
He had to propagandize everything.
Yeah, he used the USS Cole. That's crazy, bruh. Like, the USS Cole? Like, what? Like, bruh, that's what they used for 9/11.
First of all, USS Cole has no context to this whatsoever, right? That was done by Al-Qaeda, okay? Al-Qaeda has nothing to do with Iran, but he's using the USS Cole, an attack done by Al-Qaeda, not by Iran. So...
That's the case that FBI agent Ali Soufan ran, right? That was one of the biggest justifications to go after Osama bin Laden. You know what I mean? So... when I saw him pull out the USS Cole reference, I was like, oh my God, here we fucking go, bro.
Desperation.
So, yeah, it's huge.
That's exactly what I said, right? I thought that it was either desperation or just, completely unrelated to the fact. Beefcake MMA says the only media coming out of Iran is from Iran. Any media you hear is strictly from the government. The country has zero internet. Okay.
Desperation. And you can make the argument about, they fund acts of resistance, they're, terrorist backers, blah, blah, blah. But you got to understand that the reason why the acts exist is because of Israeli aggression in the region, right? The Israelis are just an unchecked force that bullies everyone in the region. And they've been trying to destroy Iran since literally 1979. So that's kind of what's been going on. So... we'll see what happens. This is not going to be good for any party, though. I think this is hell for everyone involved. Oh, this is great, Can you explain the ways that this war is going to affect us in the U.S.? Okay, sure, I could go ahead and explain that. So here's what's going to happen, okay? The thing that Trump is not talking about is this thing right here, okay? All the Americans here need to understand that this is going to affect you, okay? It's absolutely going to affect you. Why? Because this little strait here is responsible for roughly 20 to 30% of the world's oil and energy transportation. Okay. Now the Strait of Hormuz, right? is a very small, okay, corridor that a lot of our energy goes through. Now, the Gulf states heavily rely upon oil to go through here. The Iranians can shut this thing down, and they've proven that they can shut it down. They shut it down a couple of days ago as they were running military drills with the Russians and the Chinese. Okay? And oil prices went from $50 a barrel to somewhere in the 60s to 70s. Okay? If they shut down this strait, which again, somewhere between 20 to 30% of the world's oil goes through this fucking little narrow way. It's only about 20 miles, right? At its narrowest location. That is going to be big problems. Now, of course, I knew that there'd be one retard in the kick chat that says Venezuela's our answer. Hey, dummy! Hey, dummy! We haven't had the time to fully extract all of the oil out of Venezuela. Dummy. Number two, just because our oil, roughly 12% of our oil comes from this region, doesn't mean that we're not going to still feel the effects. Live in a globalized world, retard. When you live in a globalized world, that means if there's pressure in one location, it's just a matter of time until you feel it in another location. I'll give you a perfect example of this. Back in 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, okay, everyone's like, oh my God, this sucks. But if you notice, what was the biggest conversation or topic of conversation during the campaign in 2024? Well, immigration, right? Crime, etc. But another thing was inflation. The milk and eggs, right? And the bread was too expensive. You want to know why the bread was so expensive? Because Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. If Ukraine is under conflict, guess what? You can't manufacture bread to the same level. If they can't manufacture bread, that creates a strain on the supply chain. When a supply chain has strain, that means it has to go somewhere else to continue to supply the chain. Guess what that does? That increases prices. Supply and demand. Very simple, basic economic concepts. So though a war might be on the other side of the world, you are going to feel it at some fucking point. Chat. For the idiot that said, we got Venezuelan oil. That is retard.
Beefcake says, millions have fled Iran from this regime, including my father. This has been a dream for Iranians for decades. Wow, okay, so you are Iranian. Okay, so I did not know that, Beefcake MMA, so I think you definitely do have a good perspective on this particular conflict. So thank you for sharing that, by the way. I had no idea you were Iranian. He says, have you seen how many Iranians with family in Iran are celebrating? Yes, because the majority, I wouldn't say the majority of Iranians, but I would say the majority of Iranians in the Western world or live in the Western world, whether that's in Europe, for example, London, right? Shout out to Mayor Tausi, right? Mayor Tausi is a British Iranian conservative who has a YouTube channel. By the way, I'm very familiar with his channel. I view his channel. I learn a lot from his channel, and he gives a lot of perspectives as an Iranian who became, a British citizen. So, very interesting stuff. Yes, but the Iranians in Iran, I think, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, right? I think the majority of them are Shia sympathetic. And if I'm wrong about that, you are more than welcome to correct me because, quite frankly, Iran is not exactly the, the one place in the Middle East that I've been. I've been to all types of countries in the Middle East, right? Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Iraq, but when it comes to Iran, it's not a country that I can just easily come into. So, or a country that I have any, affiliations with. Libya is one of them. Egypt is one of them, right? But not Iran, right? I mean, being, somebody of a Sunni Muslim background, I don't think I would last very long in Iran. And I think you know that, right? Knowing that it's a Shia-dominated country. He says, we are Christian Assyrians. We have been massacred there for decades. Okay. Mr. Pink says, Beefcake, genuine question. What's the view on Christianity in Iran? Okay. And then Mr. Pink says, sorry to hear that, brother. Yeah, man. Sorry to hear that as well, man. But, thank you for sharing your perspective as well, man. Very helpful to this particular conversation, of course.
Hillbilly mindset. We live in an interconnected, globalized world, my friend. Okay? So, here's what's going to happen. Oh, this is Graber, by the way. Fantastic question. Fantastic fucking question. W question, bro. Here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna see the price of barrel spike. The price of a barrel of oil spike.
So you hear that, guys? Be sure to understand that because of this war, we are going to see the prices of oil go up. Now, great for the Iranians that are celebrating this, especially for Beefcake MMA and his family, right? That's one side of the story. The celebration that is going on right now, that's one side of the story. Just like in 2003, you've seen those Iraqis that were dragging the statue of Saddam Hussein, smacking his head, his metaphorical head with sandals. That's one side of the story. The other side of the story was that the economy of the United States went into shambles. On top of that, a lot of American troops died, right? That's just the reality that we have to face. Mr. Pink says, freedom to Iran. Beefcake MMA says, assuming leadership doesn't change, yes. Beefcake MMA says, now assume the leadership changes and becomes an ally with America, how much cheaper gas will be? I don't know, man. I don't know, because you got to understand, this war is going to affect the other Gulf Arab countries as well. You already seen Dubai got hit, right? Being that it's a combat sports channel, I have to mention this. You know that the safety of Saudi Arabian, fight events, the UFC, what do you call it? Boxing. It's all going to be relevant, right? Because guess what? Look, if you are an Iranian Shia and you are part of the Iranian regime, what are you going to be thinking? You're like, man, you know what? The Saudis collaborated with America and Israel to do all this, right? Man, we need to go get at them. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to go attack, okay, Islam Makhachev and Ian Gary are going to have a fight. And guess where? Saudi Arabia. They're talking about wanting to have Islam Makhachev fight Ian Gary in Saudi Arabia. How is that going to work out for the safety of the fighters and the people that are involved in that card? King of Saudi called Khomeini worse than Hitler. Wow, yeah, I remember he did say that. Saudi wanted this to happen for sure. And that is the reason why they will be the first to be attacked as a result of it. Okay, not the United States, because it's very hard to hit the United States, although they do have sleeper cells around here. That could be a problem. But rest assured and understand, Saudi Arabia is a neighbor. They are close by in proximity. Dubai is a neighbor. They're close by in proximity. And you saw what happened as an unfortunate result of that.
We're talking about from $50 to $60 to closer to 100. We might even see it go up to 200, 150 to 200. You know what that's going to do? You're going to feel that at the pump, buddy. Okay? Filling your tank just went from maybe, let's say you got a fucking truck. 50
Shout out to Mando, man. Of course, man. Peace be upon him. Shout out to you.
bucks. Now it's going to cost you 60, 70, 80 bucks. And it's only going to get worse as time progresses. Also, keep in mind that we've been using our petroleum reserves in the United States since the Biden era. Our emergency.
You heard that? We've been using our petroleum reserves since the Biden era. So, going back to what you're saying, Beefcake MMA, now assume the leadership changes and becomes allies with the United States, how much cheaper will gas be? You could ask Iraq how that happened when they added Nouri al-Maliki, or better yet, Ahmed al-Shalabi, after they got rid of Saddam Hussein.
Strategic petroleum reserves. That's another reason why invaded Venezuela. Now, here's another thing as well. The Chinese lost Venezuela to us. So now the Iranians have stepped up and are supplying oil to the Chinese at a cheap price. The Chinese get roughly 15% of their oil, which I predict is going to go up from there because, again, they lost Venezuela.
Mando says, free the Iranian people. You know what? How about this, Mando? Free the American people from the you-know-what and you-know-who. How about that?
The Chinese are heavily involved and heavily incentivized to support.
Oh, you're Iranian. Okay, man, shout out to you. But you know what I mean. Free the American people from the state of Israel.
Iran. They don't want American influence in Iran. And they don't want to lose cheap oil. Also, also, the Russians have a vested interest because they don't want U.S. Because here's what's going to happen. If Iran falls, they're going to put a pro-U.S. leader there.
There it is, right here, right? Pro-U.S. leader. Beefcake MMA says, evil is evil, all religions have them. Well, you're right about that. The Prophet Muhammad did speak about a group of people that are going to exist from his time till now, called the Khawarij, right? That's the next thing I'm going to get to right after this video. I'm going to show you something about that.
That is a big fucking hit to BRICS. Okay? So there you go. I hope that, guys, give me ones in the chat that all makes sense. But that's how you guys are going to start feeling this as Americans. You're going to feel it at the pump and you're going to feel it at the grocery store. By far. Those are the first two ways you're going to feel it. If you guys hold stocks and crypto, you all feel it there too. If you got gold, good job. You're going to make a bunch of money, nigga. If you're holding gold, you niggas are good.
All right. So you inspired me right there when you said, you know, evil is evil, all religions have them. I want you to hear this, right? Who are the Khawarij? What are their characteristics and how to avoid them? This is from Sheikh Asim Al-Hakim. I want you to hear this one right here, okay? This is very interesting stuff right here.
Shadows from Sri Lanka, he says, what is the definition? Who are the Khawarij? So that we be careful from not being with them. See, nowadays with the media, a lot of the youth are confused because the moment someone says something against a Muslim government or a Muslim ruler or a minister or any practice that he sees wrong, and he says, this is unfair, this is wrong, this is this or that, immediately you will find an army of people accusing him of being Khawarij. And this is totally unfair, un-Islamic, because you cannot label someone to be a hypocrite or to call him as a kafir. And these people know this, that there are conditions to be fulfilled, there are obstacles to be made.
Anthony says Jesus is the Messiah. That's true, but he is not the Son of God, Anthony. Just so you know.
Sure, they do not exist. Before we can label someone as a kafir or as a hypocrite or as a mushrik, and likewise as a khawarij. You can't label people simply as such. So this is why a lot of the youth are saying, okay, whenever I open my mouth, they say you're a khawarij. What is this? No, khawarij is a cult. It is a sect that was found at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And
Anthony, he's not the Son of God. I want you to think of it like this, Anthony, okay? How can Allah have human characteristics? Could you explain that? How is it possible that, I mean, you're just regurgitating what you've heard from mainstream Christianity. He's not the Son of God. Because God cannot have a son. I mean, you can argue and say we are all children of God, but by the pure definition of God having human characteristics, that's not real. What Jesus was and is, and what he will be when he returns to earth, is a prophet. He is a prophet and a messenger of Allah, God, right? And let's not mince words of Allah or God. No, Allah is not God. Yeah, Allah is God. Okay, and by the way, if you ask how he mentions Allah in a way where, you know, he calls him exactly that, you know, Allahi, right? So Allahi is way closer to the Arabic language, or the Aramaic language in which he spoke. He says, God loved the world so much that he gave his only son. Okay, you're just regurgitating, you know, stuff that you heard, but stuff that you never really researched. But anyways.
Their main characteristics is, one, they see it is fit and permissible to rebel and overthrow Muslim rulers. This is a very prominent characteristic. So all what you see among those who called for the Arab Spring, overthrowing governments, taking down Muslim rulers, just because they were unfair or they were tyrants. They're still Muslim. This is a prominent a characteristic of Al-Khawarij. Number two is giving takfir. So you oppose me, you're a kafir. And this is found not only with the Khawarij, it's found also with other deviant sects. You don't believe that the Prophet ﷺ was light and created from Allah's light? You're a kafir. You're this, you're that. So these two main traits and characteristics, if found in an individual, he would be from among the Khawarij. Anything else? A lot. If you study their literature and how they think, you will find that they have no problem in killing Muslims and being in truce with the non-Muslims. You will find that they have no problem in taking your money unlawfully, or anyone else who's not with them, because they think that all of them are kuffar and their wealth, their blood is all halal for us. And this is very dangerous. And if you go through their websites, you will never find a reliable scholar. You will never find a scholar who's known as a person. All what you will see is Abu Hatim al-Zarkashi, Abu Mujahid al-Tunisi, Abu Abdullah al-Najdi. He's talking about, if you're wondering who the Sheikh is talking about here, he's talking about people who have the characteristics of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and people of that nature, right? That's what he is basically going after in this particular conversation here. Nicknames. Who are they? I don't know. And you will find articles, PDFs, pages and pages of quotations here and there. You don't know who wrote them. And they are made to deceive and to confuse the Muslims. It could have been written by the CIA or the KGB or whatever. Who cares? But it's definitely used to confuse the Muslims. So without referring back to the true, real scholars of Islam, whom we have a lot and plenty of, these youth are in great danger, and Allah knows best. All right, so let's get back to this particular conversation.
Short time ago.
A second here. So this Al Jazeera article, hold on. Al Jazeera. Who will ruin? Okay, so all right, who will rule Iran after Khomeini? That's the question that Al Jazeera asks here. What do you think of the Iran situation, Kyrie? Well, you're just in time. We're actually talking about it right now.
You have it listed,
so
you type it in, and then you go digging.
The frontrunners at the time. Now he needs to be replaced. Here are some of the potential candidates. Moshtaba Khamenei is Ayatollah Khamenei's second eldest son. While he holds no formal position, he wields immense influence. He was a top aide to his father and said to have strong ties to the Revolutionary Guard. But he would be a controversial choice, seen as a hereditary handover. Alireza Arafi is the director of Iran's religious seminaries and Friday prayer leader of Qom, the country's seminary capital. Khamenei had repeatedly appointed him to senior positions. Mohammad Mahdi Moghareri is a ultra-hardline cleric and key figure in the front of Islamic Revolution Stability political groups. Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejei is also a potential candidate. He's been Iran's Chief Justice since 2021. And finally, Hassan Khamenei, the grandson of Ayatollah Khamenei, the first supreme leader. He's a reformist and a prominent political figure in Iran. Well, Al Jazeera's correspondent Rachel Suda has reported extensively from Iran. He joins us in the studio now to unpack the latest developments. So, confirmation the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. Tell us what impact this is now having on the country, and what's likely to do in terms of where the war goes from here, from Iran's military response.
I think here, at the end of the day, regardless of his death, Iranians have been quite clear that even if the U.S. Strikes are limited, Iran's response is going to be like a full-fledged war. And the reason for that is there has been lots of Iranian policymakers that believe that after October 7th, 2023, Iran's response to the escalation of the U.S. and Israel has always been de-escalation, and that has encouraged further attacks on Iranian assets across the region in Lebanon.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I think about this whole entire war with Iran, right? I don't like it. Primarily because I don't think it's for the best of U.S. interest, okay? I think that they're doing it for interests of other people. You can point to, one Middle Eastern country, multiple Middle Eastern countries that are at war with Iran, right? But either way, it's not going to be good for the United States. It's not going to be good for the economy. And more importantly, it's not going to help the economy of the United States. It's going to hinder it. So what good does it do other than, let's say, satisfy a few Iranian people? And look, I know there's some Iranians in the chat right now. I know there's some Iranians that are listening. But I need you to understand, yes, it's a short victory for you, but it's a long-term disaster for Americans. Okay? Let me say it again. For Iranians that care or are tied to this particular subject, good for you, but overall, bad for America in the overall scheme of things. And that's really no ways about it. That's just how it's going to go.
In Syria, and then finally in the country last June. And so the belief is that, so from now on, there's nowhere to go. And we have to respond with our full military might to reestablish our deterrence. That's why now they are going to mobilize all of their capabilities and capacities. Whether it's going to be enough really to put a
Shout out to you,
there,
Hate Love.
that is a different case because we know that Iran.
Shout out to Hate Love, one of my members, one of the members only members. There it is, right? Shout out to you, my man.
Has very limited resources as well. It's a country that is immensely struggling from the lack of the economic resources. However, now that the head of the state is killed, and not only as head of state is a political position, but it's also a theological position for the Shia Muslims in the world. So, and that head of the theological position, who is believed to be the representative.
By the way, here's another thing that I want to bring up on this, right? So, yes, he brought up a good point there, the analyst on the desk right now that is talking, right? He brought up the idea that Iran is the epicenter of Shia Islam to the world, right? You take them away, what happens? You're going to provoke all the Shia militias in the world, okay? So there's going to be rampant attacks on Western interests around the world, Saudi interests around the world, UAE interests around the world, and Israeli interests around the world. And in turn, it is going to cause a ripple effect that we may have not seen coming or we may have underestimated, and I think people really need to understand that. So, here we go, back to this.
Representative of the hidden imam that's going to come at the end of the time, bring justice to the world. So Iranians are going to respond with their whole capacity, with their full military capabilities. That is quite clear. To reestablish the deterrence and also to make sure that the next leader is not going to be targeted.
So let's talk briefly about the Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. How will they affect the election of the new Supreme Leader, Rasul? Because they're a hugely influential body, aren't they?
Indeed. So Revolutionary Guards have been formed through the Iran-Iraq War, which has started in 1980 and then ended in 1988. So then, when Ali Khamenei actually has been elected as the new supreme leader, one of the institutions that he has invested heavily and also trusted heavily is the Revolutionary Guards. So simply it was a symbiotic like relationship between them. So he was feeding the Revolutionary Guards and the Revolutionary Guards were giving him the power. So this mutual relation between the two have enhanced both parties tremendously. Now the Revolutionary Guards are controlling 1/3 of the country's economy. They're controlling the intelligence, they're controlling the banking, oil, gas, mining industries. And they are extremely powerful when it comes to the political decision-making processes. So just a little bit ago, you have run some of the names like Hassan Rouhani, Hassan Khomeini, some Ajay, and some of other names that potentially could be the successor of Ali Khamenei. So I will say, well, actually, the next leader is going to be IRGC. Because in 1989, when Ali Khamenei has been elected as the supreme leader of the country, there were no Revolutionary Guards that much powerful yet. They were still taking a shape. And so he was elected by civilians relatively. But now, whoever is going to be put forward, we can be sure that is going to come from the Revolutionary Guards.
Let's just talk about the succession plans, Raisel, if we can, because the Islamic Revolution, as we've been talking about all morning, is deeply embedded in the politics of the country, the institutions, the society. Now that the Supreme Leader is dead, talk us through the system, the constitution, and how that succession plan plays out.
Look, normally Iran has three bodies that are running the country. So the government, legislative, and the judiciary. But in Iran, particularly after the election of Ali Khamenei 37 years ago, he has also built tremendous numbers of the councils that in many cases are more powerful than the government, the parliament, the judiciary, and they act independently. They regularly report to the supreme leader. So this is on one hand to make sure that there is a check and balance in the system, but it's also because there is the lack of trust between the institutions. So let's remember, Iran is a security state. So, and one of that powerful councils is the Assembly of Experts. That's its primary reasons of their existence is to elect the supreme leader of the country.
All right, so a couple of things that I had noticed there, right? What does he say here? Anthony, focus on the topic, not your recycled lack of knowledge. There you go. That's what I mean. He says good people must stand up to evil rather than staying silent. I mean, look, I just think that you're regurgitating a lot of stuff that you don't really know anything about. I think that you don't understand the full-on implication of what's going to happen in the overall world, right? You're just saying these things because it's just what you heard your preachers say or this and that. But anyways, right? You know, tomato, whatever, right? Hate Love says, yeah, Anthony, focus on the topic, not your recycled knowledge. Facts. So, look, Khomeini, the Ayatollah, right, has really invested a lot on the Revolutionary Guard, right? There's a reason why they have a Revolutionary Guard. So when things like this happen, they can create a resistance for their whole entire country, and as a result, guess what? This is going to be a very hard fight for the United States if they decide to occupy Iran. So you have to understand that.
And it's 88 members political body. So this political body is going to come, and these are just all the religious figures, and they're going to put the names and discuss on that, and then it's going to be elected. In that sense, actually, it's a selection, not an election, because it's not going to be the popular vote of people. So there will not be the ballot boxes and asking Iranians who you want to see as your next leader. So it's going to be 88 people who have been vetted by the Guardian Council, another council, and these guys are going to come and select that. But up until that time, there will be a new council being including the president, the head of the judiciary, and also one member of the Guardian Council. 3 people are going to run the country for an interim period of time until the Assembly of Experts come up with a final name.
Russell, talk to us about Ali Khamenei's life and what sort of legacy he leaves behind. I mean, let's remind our viewers, he was loved and adored by everyone in Iran, given the sanctions, the wars, the social turmoil that's hit this country over many, many years now.
Indeed, he was an extremely controversial figure. So throughout his tenure, we have seen that he has been loved and, by the way, admired by millions of people, but also hated by some other millions. So in that sense, he was a controversial figure. One thing should be kept in mind. He is the builder and the architect of the modern day Iran. Any state institutions, particularly their strategic institutions, any security apparatuses that you can imagine, and also any individual now, the senior individuals in the country that are running.
So from what it sounds like, this guy has a serious effect on, what do you call it? He has a serious effect on the modern Iran, right? Meaning that everything that is going on in Iran right now, their military apparatus, their security apparatus, their economic apparatus was all built by him. So that means that there's going to be some serious reprisals from this, and I think people are underestimating the reality of that, right? They are just taking this in jest as like, okay, well, you know what? We got rid of him. Now that we got rid of him, now it's on to a new regime. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you, right? I don't think it's going to be that simple. I don't think it's going to be that simple to just attach a new regime, right now. I don't think it's going to be that simple. I think that it's going to be a lot more difficult than what I think a lot of you might anticipate, right? The reason being is because I don't think they're going to go down without a fight that easily. I think many of you believe that they're going to go down without a fight easily because you have this firm belief of the United States, right? Now, if you're a little bit older, right, if you've seen what the United States has gone through in Iraq and Afghanistan, and you don't even have to be that old, right? You could just look at the history books and understand, just how volatile, America was after Iraq, right? Just how vulnerable America looked after Iraq. And if you don't think that we're going to be vulnerable with Iran, by the way, a country that is way stronger than Iraq ever was, on top of that, the type of influence that they have around the world, also the fact that they are allies with China and Russia, man, listen, you guys got another thing coming, right? This is not as easy as you think, and the transition is not going to be as smooth as you would love to believe it to be.
The state's affairs have been either formed, built, or appointed by Ali Khamenei. So in that sense, he's the founding father of the modern Iran. On the other hand, one thing has made him different than the previous one. So the previous, or the first supreme leader of Iran was Khomeini, Ayatollah Khomeini, who was regarded as a charismatic leader. And when Ali Khamenei has been elected, he knew that he lacks that charisma. So what he has done was to enhance the security apparatuses and to rely on them. So he enhanced the state, but at the cost of people. And that has created a gap between people and the state. So a kind of lack of communication. So the divergence of the positions between people and the government. And that has been the source of the tensions. So that's why, by the time, he has been more and more unpopular in Iran.
All right, Rachel, many thanks for your analysis. We'll obviously come back to you later on throughout the morning.
All right, so I'll tell you what, man, out of all the people that are covering this, right, I think Myron Gaines has the best takes on this particular story with Iran, right? I think he does. The reason why he does is because you need to understand that he is very unbiased about all of this, right? I know that you guys are going to say that, you know what, he is, anti-Israel, he's pro-Palestinian, so of course he's going to have a biased take. I think not. You really have to hear what he has to say here. Let's hear what he had to say about Khomeini getting assassinated right now. So I know he's got a lot to say about this particular topic. Let's get to it right now.
a lot of key military figures in the leadership as well, I'm assuming, because whoever was around and had to be of some importance as well. And this, of course, provoked a response from Iran, in where they struck not only Israel, that's him right there on the screen, if you guys can see, that's Ali Khamenei, Grand Ayatollah. So in the response that Iran had set out for Israel, they responded not only to Israel with their ballistic missiles campaign, which we knew what was coming, but they actually struck 7 or 8 Gulf countries. So that would be Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and which one am I missing here? There was one more, Jordan. So 7 countries in the Gulf. They took pretty much almost the Gulf, and they hit all of the United States military bases in these countries. They kind of aimed at some civilian infrastructure, especially in the UAE as well as Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So if you go on Twitter, you can see a bunch of that on your timeline. So right now where we are is Iran is still unleashing its military barrage of missiles onto these Gulf countries, whilst simultaneously attacking Israel, Tel Aviv, Haifa, and other provinces as well. Now, what's happening on the ground in Israel and in the air is a little bit skewed, of course, because Western media is a lot more reluctant to post that kind of stuff and report on it. And so what we're having to do is go in Telegram channels and find out what's going on the ground in Israel. But from what I'm gathering here, and you let me know if you agree, Myron, it seems like Israel is not really... Look, they're getting barraged and they're getting assaulted badly and they're dealing with a lot of damage in infrastructure, but it seems...
That's another thing too, man. Israel is also getting attacked, man. They are getting attacked, and I think they're used to it in ways that Americans are not. So they're just going to, I guess, continue doing what they're doing regardless of how their people feel. I mean, look, there's plenty of Israeli people that are protesting the state of Israel, that have protested the state of Israel, but that's going to fall on deaf ears. They're not going to care, right? They're going to do what they need to do, right? They're going to operate in ways that they need to operate, and that's going to be regardless of how anybody else feels about what they have going on, right? They just have no regard for their citizens, let alone the citizens of other people, and I'm talking about the Israelis in general. So, you know, just so you guys know. Okay, let's get back to this one right here.
Seems like the United States and Israel has good control over the situation, and not only have they decapitated leadership, but they obviously have the upper hand when it comes to air superiority. Although this is a long game, for right now, it seems like they've kind of dealt the brunt of force to start off the war. But again, it's a war, it's not a battle, so we'll see what happens over the next few days. But right now, it seems like the Western powers and their ally and their key partnership is kind of taking a little bit more of a hedge than the IRGC, at least for right now. That's kind of like the brief overview and where we've gotten to.
Okay, real quick, can you read your super chats? I'm compiling the list right now of all the people that were killed, and who they are. I'm pulling up all their Wikipedia pages right now for everybody. And you know what? Do me a favor. Give them a quick summary on the failed talks at Geneva, as well. Because that was like, you know, that's one of the bullshit that they used to justify also striking them.
Yeah. So, for context, and this is all in retrospect, we're realizing this now. We didn't know as things were happening in tandem or chronologically, but now we can see in the grand scheme of things. It seems that the United States and Israel plan to kind of undermine Iran, and these talks were all for no reason rather than to just really show face. And we ended up striking them again anyways this morning.
So what did I tell you what this negotiation was like, right? In combat sports terms, and when you see a fighter that never really had any intention to fight another fighter, right, they're going to say, well, I want this much. Okay, well, now guess what? You're John Jones. You're offered $30 million to fight Tom Aspinall. Okay, now I want this much instead, right? You just constantly move the goalposts rather than actually come to a definitive conclusion. In fact, there is no definitive conclusion. The only definitive conclusion that you have is that you do not want to take that fight. Well, in this case, the United States wanted to take this fight. They wanted to take the fight to Iran for their purposes and the reasons that they have behind them. And whatever Iran was willing to agree upon, they were going to move the goalposts just so they can make an excuse as to say, you know what, Iran didn't comply, and as a result of this is what we're going to do.
But we had talks with Israel, first of all being in Oman. This was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, about a month ago. And in these peace talks, we had our military envoy for the Middle East, Stephen Witkoff, and Jared Kushner, who represent Donald Trump, in meeting with IRGC official members. as well as other key figures in the Iranian government and political figures to come to some sort of terms. The issue is obviously, what are those terms? What are the stipulations? What is America bringing to the table? What are the non-negotiables? For us, we kept moving the goalposts. And
Piano Boy says the last type of pizza you had and where from. Piano Boy, I am located in Sacramento, California, represent. And the last pizza that I had was cheese pizza, and I don't eat anything else other than cheese pizza. Maybe pineapple pizza, but that's about it. Definitely not bacon, indicative of my beard and being a Muslim.
we'll kind of get to why that's the case later. I'll break this all down so you guys understand clearly. But we moved the goalposts. We're talking about, well, you need to get rid of your missiles program, then you need to get rid of your proxy program. If you guys don't know, Iran has a very powerful proxy program located in southern Lebanon as well as North Yemen. Those
And that's considered Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen.
are really the major threats, as well as some of them in Iraq as well. And so the United States is telling Israel, you've got to get rid of these proxies. You've got to do something about this, as well as pretty much halting your nuclear program, promising us you're not going to make a bomb. At the same time, we're also telling them you've got to shut down the ballistic missiles program. And Benjamin Netanyahu even proposed that for the missiles program, they have to shorten the distance in which their missiles can travel.
So 300 kilometers, which is fucking retarded. Useless.
Yeah, which is literally missiles not going to be able to even leave the province of Iran with that kind of distance, as we know Iran.
So what did I tell you guys, right? Constantly moving the goalposts because they want this war to commence. Now look, why do they want this war to commence? Okay, obviously, Iran is a threat to somebody in the Middle East. Well, they are a threat to multiple people. Obviously, one of them is Israel, right? One of them is also Saudi Arabia. And they've proven that by attacking Abu Dhabi. Today, Dubai was just attacked. As a matter of fact, let me show you a footage, by the way, by Chris Eubank, interestingly enough. This is from Chris Eubank. Trump's warned Iran not to strike back. Yeah, well, yeah, he's saying he does not want to be woken up to a bad news this morning. He's going to bed now. Huh, okay. All right, let me get to this right here. Okay, wait, let's see here. Where is hold on, I want to show you this thing real quick. All right, so betrayal brings consequences. Take a look at this. This is right after all of this, right? So this is Dubai, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. Already hit. Hate Love says, hey, had to go just look at his channel history. Okay, and what did you find about his channel history, Hate Love? Let me know what you found out about his channel history. Was there anything interesting that we could sort of use against him? Oh, and check this out. This is from Chris Eubank Jr., the boxer, because obviously he was right across the street from the explosion. You need to see this. This is like a scene out of Call of Duty. Okay, this was absolutely insane right here. You got to check this out. Well, there you go. All right. So back to what my man is saying here.
On this very large area and landmass. And so, of course, these are unrealistic terms. We're making maximalist demands in a situation where a country already doesn't trust us because we've tarnished the peace agreement that we previously made with them under the Obama administration. And so they already know that this Trump administration is pro-Israel. It's there to undermine them, and it's there to eventually decapitate their power and their leadership authority and their structure and take power or plant our own planned president there, who looks like he's, the Shah intercessor, or the predecessor of the Shah. His name is Reza Pahlavi. And so we had these talks.
I had some retard is saying old news now. Hey, dumbass, we're recapping everything, you stupid fuck. Niggas
Yeah,
are
we're just doing a quick recap.
We're literally doing a
quick
recap,
overview.
dumbass.
And so
Stupid nigga in the
we
Kit
had
chat.
the talk. We had the talks in Oman, and then we moved to Geneva to have those talks again. And I
By the way, the talks in Oman, you know, that was with Jared Kushner, you know, as part of that, you know, diplomatic team to talk with the Iranian diplomats. But yeah.
The second round of Geneva talks, we got nowhere. And it seems like we couldn't come up with any agreement. That was at some point last week. And of course, everybody was kind of ready for some sort of military intervention in the Middle East. And a lot of countries started gearing up. The United Kingdom had pulled out a lot of their personnel from the embassies. The United States started clearing out their military bases. A lot of countries in Europe started preparing in different ways. And so it was evident that a strike was pretty much imminent, but we didn't know when and what time exactly. But Israel made it very apparent when they attacked this morning at 2 a.m. in Tehran. So it's important to realize Donald Trump, or not Donald Trump, but rather J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio were set out to go to Israel next week. I doubt that's the case anymore, being the fact that it'd be a huge security threat. But they proposed to Iran that they proposed to the world rather that they would be in Israel next week. So this just kind of goes to say that they were undermining the IRGC, the entire Iranian Revolutionary Guard is what that is, and had a plan on striking them this entire time. And they say it was preemptive, but it absolutely wasn't. And so that's kind of the situation with the peace talks. It was just kind of a strategic thing to lull them to sleep to eventually strike them. I've got chats here. I can read these, and then you're still getting set up.
Yeah, I got it ready. I can quickly go over. So, guys, here's a quick overview of the people that were killed. Give me 1 sec. I'll show you guys this real fast. Where the hell do I have? Right, obviously, Khamenei, right, was the first person. Well, he got killed a couple hours ago, but this is the supreme leader of Iran. Then they also lost this guy right here, Ali Shamkhani. This dude was the Iranian naval officer and politician who served as the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council of Iran. So they got him as well. Let's see. They got Mohammed Pakor. He was an Iranian military officer who served as the commander of the IRGC, right? So they got him. And then they got Aziz Nasir-Zeda, who basically, this guy was the Iranian Minister of Defense in the government of the Masoud Pezeshkian from 2024 to 2026. So basically, they had a bunch of, high-ranking military officials to include the supreme leader, right? Let's see here. Oh, yeah, here they are from the Situation Room, it looks like. This is probably in Mar-a-Lago. Here you go. 2026 Israeli United States strikes on Iran. And here it is. It looks like, I think this looks like Mar-a-Lago. Here he is with Susie Wiles, right here. Marco Rubio, Secret Service himself. And he had recorded he recorded the video wearing this outfit. So, and I think he pre-recorded it, and it's called Operation Epic Fury. So, and they're bombing all over the country right now. Now, from what I understand from multiple sources, is their goal was to get as many of these guys in one location as possible to do the strike. That's what they were waiting on. So that's what they were literally building resources there for a while, and they were using their intelligence assets to try to figure out when they were actually going to strike. And that's how they ended up with getting all four of these guys. Obviously, Khamenei, this guy, Ali Shamkhani, Mohammed Pakor, and then obviously this is them at the Situation Room and everything else like that in Mar-a-Lago. Now, here's a list of what's transpired, guys, over the past couple of hours, right? So, Iran and Iraqi militias have basically targeted Al-Udeid Air Base in Qatar. You guys know that's the biggest air base in the Middle East. NSA Bahrain, that's a naval location of Bahrain. Al-Dhafra base in the UAE, Prince Sultan base in Saudi Arabia, Ali Al-Salam base in Kuwait, American base in Erbil.
Okay, now how insane is that, right? They were able to attack all these bases as soon as they got hit, right? Which goes to tell you that the Iranians have intelligence agents all over the region. They got them all over the region, to follow these people, follow all of these places that they have right here, right? The U.S. bases, the base in UAE, the base in Saudi Arabia, the base in Kuwait and Bahrain and Qatar, UAE airport, Bahraini airport. I mean, they are just going after all these Arab, territories and U.S. bases at the same time. It's crazy work, man.
Iraqi Kurdistan.
He says, that chat is crashing out. I might watch this again. He keeps disturbing chats in a not nice way. I'm not gonna repeat it, but it is vulgar. Yeah, gotcha, my man.
Ofak al-Sulti Air Base in Jordan. Radar systems in Bahrain. Radar systems in Qatar. UAE airport. Bahrain airport. Launched missiles over 50 different times towards Israel. Multiple impacts in Israel. Visual confirmation of a ship being struck, likely an Israeli Navy ship. Suicidal drones impacting multiple infrastructure and high-value properties across the Gulf, UAE, Bahrain, and Qatar. Over 120 Israeli casualties, one dead Emirati. Drone strikes.
Wow, over 120 Israeli casualties, mind you, okay? And the drone strikes in Kurdistan on top of that, man. So they're sending drones on top of that. So, all right, listen, guys. Well, you know what? I could go on for about a couple more minutes. Let's, let's break the 2-hour mark on this one. So let's go for about another 3 minutes, and then we'll get up out of here.
Iraqi Kurdistan. And then on the U.S. side, they've gotten, obviously, the Supreme Leader, El-Kheer, assassination of 6 senior Iranian military figures. I showed you guys 3 or 4 of them. 900 plus strikes on Iran, 100 plus dead civilians, an all-age girls' school was struck, and over 80 people were killed. I'm confident that this school that they bombed, chat, there was probably a high-ranking military official there. That's what I'm willing to bet.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking, right? I was like, you know what? This sounds really bad that they're going after a girls' school out of all places. But then, yeah, maybe there was somebody of military importance there, and they decided, hey, you know what? We're going to go after it. So here it is.
They struck it. Then you got multiple Iranian missile bases were struck. The Iranian Ministry of Defense building was struck. Iranian presidential palace was struck. The Iranian Supreme Leader's office was struck. Mass airstrikes throughout Iran. Air superiority almost fully achieved, according to Israeli estimates. So
they've got full control of the air now.
Well, do they? Because I know that they've been having
Iran,
issues with
the United States has a good deal. I'm reading out in a lot of different places that the United States has a good deal of control of the air in Iran.
Okay. Hold on, I don't know why my camera's acting like that, but whatever. So.
All right, guys. So listen, that is all that I have for you on this one right now. We obviously went over. We obviously went over the fight tonight with Brandon Moreno. What an upset, right? We didn't expect Loner Kavanagh to win that, but he did. That's why, man, you never underestimate anybody in combat sports. Now, as far as this situation going on in Iran, all I got to say with that is I think we are going to be on some tough times ahead. Usually, whenever there is a war going on, one of the things that people love to do is celebrate it, right? They love to celebrate patriotism. They love to celebrate it like it's a victory. And to a certain extent, maybe it is. But it is only a victory in a temporary sense, because guess what? Whenever you take over a country, you have to create regime change. And then with that regime change, there's going to be resistance, especially in a Muslim world. Okay, and not the type of resistance that you saw in Iraq, even worse now in Iran, because now you're going into their borders. It's one thing when you were just fighting Iran through proxies with the Muqtada al-Sadr al-Mahdi army and, fighting them in Hezbollah by shooting drones at them or this and that. This is now a completely different animal, right? We are dealing with an animal where we are now dealing with regime change on top of the fact that we have a very bad economy going on right now. So I just don't like where this is going. He says, okay, bro, take care. It's like 8 hours and 30 minutes. I'm going to go to sleep now. Yeah, for sure, my man. Thank you, everyone that's tapped in the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one, inshallah.